Blessings. I am Neff. I want to welcome you to today's energy reading. Happy new moon if you are watching it in real time. If you are here at some other moment, just trust that the moment that you arrived here is perfect and there's a message here for you if you trust your own intuition that guided you here. So, energy is pretty much in flow. So, some of us may arrive here in alignment with the energy of this specific moon cycle, others may align with it at another time. So, just trust that it's a fated connection and take what is yours and leave what is not. The most important thing is your intuition, and that is the way that I've done the readings up until this point. So today, because of where my energy is, I'm just going to pretty much go directly into the message of this cycle. I did pull this reading during a fire ritual, and it is a pyramid reading, which if you're interested in learning about the readings or getting a reading, you can click the link in the description to book a reading as well if you want a personal reading. I do offer these pyramid readings, which is based on ancient African symbolism, right? So just know that this is not your typical tarot reading. I do want you to exercise your intuition, and really the cards are also a method to teach the symbolism and the sacred science of our ancient ancestors. But in general, the energy of this cycle is really one that is likely to be challenging for most of us because it is a cycle that has a lot of change and transformation, and that process is inherently challenging because it's meant to strengthen us. So I'll go ahead and say it's strengthening just so that we could be on the optimistic side of guiding the energy, right? But the cycle itself is all about balancing the opposites. There's going to be a lot of polarities or opposing energies that we'll have the opportunity to synchronize. So this time I pulled 11 cards for the reading, but for the public reading, I'm only going to share the first 3 cards, which are the overarching guiding principle of the entire cycle and the mental realm, right? So it's going to deal with the aspects that are affecting our mind or our thoughts, the influence from the past, because remember, there's no in eternity, right? In truth, and this is the essence of our ancient sacred science. There is no past, present, or future, right? It's not about splitting things. It's about bringing everything into union. And that union is expressed through eternity, right? So in eternity, there is no past, present, and future. Everything is everything and happening at once. But the way that we can conceptualize it in a way that's more holistic is we can think about it as a continuum of energy, right? So there's energy that's behind us, there's the energy that's current, that's with us, and there's the energy that's in front of us, right? So essentially I'll talk about the interpretation I have of the cards for the energy that's influencing our mind that's behind us and what is ahead of us. And the goal with the reading is just to align you with the energy in a conscious way. The energy is going to unfold regardless, right? Whether we're conscious of it or not. But because you're here, you should trust that having the consciousness about the energy is going to allow you to embody it in a more graceful way, because you know what you're dealing with, especially when it comes to really challenging energies like the ones that are going to present themselves this cycle. So I'm going to go ahead and get started with the first card of the reading, which is Ma'at. And you can go ahead and pause your screen to note whatever comes up for you intuitively, right? All 3 of the cards, interestingly enough, in this reading at the top were in the house of Pet. And the house of Pet is the family of the heavens, right? Because each card is based on, there's particular houses. It's not like your typical tarot where you have the different elements. These are based on houses. So this element of the heavens is really, really prominent right now because the cycle that we're in, especially in ancient Kemet and ancient African tradition, is very, very significant cosmologically, what's happening in the heavens, right? So it's interesting that the top 3 cards are all about the heavens, the celestial energy. And what I want to share about that is that the cycle that we're in right now is what we would consider the rising of Septet, also known as Sirius, which is the binary star system that is considered to be the son of our sun. And in our ancient tradition, Sirius is considered to be the origins of our people, right? It was more so looking at humanity through a cosmic lens, right? Where we weren't just embodying this human form, but we're really expressing something that is expressing itself from the universe. And even when you go into like European based like interpretations of the cosmos, you look at people like Carl Sagan, who was like a very, very well known astronomer, scientist, cosmologist. And there's a beautiful quote of his that's so simple. And he just says, "We're star stuff." And that's essentially what our ancestors been saying, right? So the origin of that star stuff, the son of our sun is Sirius. And right now it is currently rising into prominence in the sky. And that was so significant for us in our ancient tradition because really it represented the inundation of the Hapi, also known as the Nile River, right? And that was the basis of all sustenance on that particular area of the planet. And it does represent this overflow. Sorry. Interesting. It does represent this overflow, right? This overflow. And think about it. The Hapi represents, so the inundation or the flooding of the Nile is a beautiful thing because there's all these channels and waterways that are prepared to guide that water to the farms so that it could be used to provide food for the people. But if you just have a flood and you're not prepared for it, then you have a flood. You just have a lot of water, you have a mess, a lot of destruction, right? So that's the best way to look at the way that we're navigating this energy right now. So I would love for you to think about it in that sense, right? There's like this dualistic aspect that's trying to merge, which is what I'm talking about when I say the balance of the opposites. There's two sides of everything, as we know, right? There's up, there's down, there's dark, there's light, there's male, there's female, right? These are complementary forces and energies. So we need them in this realm because they create the symmetry that allows everything to have purpose. So I want you to think about that when it comes to the flood. Like you can be prepared for it and it'd be a great thing, or you can not be prepared for it and really be destructive. And that's the essence of the energy of the cycle that we're moving into. Okay. And I do want to shout out, I never announce when I'm going to do these lives, but I want to shout out Sky High Jam for being here, and Rashawn, who are here with us live. So welcome. And because you're here live, feel free to share anything. As I tell people who always watch the replay or the raw play, as I like to say, make sure you pause and take up what comes up for you intuitively. So the guiding energy of the reading is Ma'at, and Ma'at is balance, right? The card number for Ma'at is 8 as well, which is the number of eternity, right? 8 has no end. It's literally the same as the symbol of infinity. And it's an energy that can be looping. And it kind of represents the idea of there being no end, right? When we have completion, it's only for rebirth. When we have death, it's for rebirth, right? So there's this element of like those two sides, right? The 8 is literally like two circles coming together, right? So this is what the essence of the symbolism of the energy is. And remember, energy, like we're trying to put it into words, but sometimes these symbols can help us because they're really beyond words. So the energy of Ma'at, for those who don't know, Ma'at is symbolized by the ostrich and the feather of the ostrich. And it's also symbolized by the scales because during the judgment, right, of any person, right, once you transition or anything, once it's complete, the essence of judgment is that something has to complete itself and it has to take account of its state. So in this judgment scene, right, when the deceased person enters the hall of Asar for judgment, there's the scale where the heart of the person is placed on one side and the feather of truth of justice, of Ma'at, is on the other side. And we still see the symbolism today in the modern, you know, injustice system, right? Where they show the scales and the woman with the blindfold, right? Because the ostrich actually digs its head into the sand, which is another interesting symbolism around the ostrich to think about. Why did we consider this creature the largest bird on the planet, and it doesn't fly, right? Like what about this grounded element of this air energy is reflective of the idea and the essence of what we know as truth? And Ma'at is more than truth, because Ma'at also represents cosmic order, right? Ma'at brings order to chaos, but you need chaos for order to even be necessary, right? So that's the essence of the infinite possibilities of all that could be. And that's also going to be represented in this reading. But essentially, because this is the fire principle, it is the passionate spark of energy for the entire cycle that we're in. And there's something here about bringing in serenity, right? It's through this balancing act, which may be strengthening us, right? So it might be challenging for us, but ultimately it's to bring us to the serenity of what it is to have energy that is synchronized, that is serenity, right? That is level, right? Leveling back into ourselves with all the energy that we've just moved through. Remember, we're still dealing with the past cycle that's still influencing us, all the emotions we've been clearing out. If you didn't watch the last reading, that will be helpful for you, because we already moved through the energy of the cycle, but the influence is still present. And if you're not conscious of exactly how it played out, it'll help you in your reflection on this last cycle we just moved through. So this card represents truth and justice, right? And really it's about higher laws operating to influence events. So there's a divine intervention of cosmic law, cosmic order. Cosmic law, or universal law, is actually the counterpart of Ma'at, which is Tehuti. But essentially, when the parent's heart is placed on the scales of judgment, if the heart is light as the feather, then the person passes through the judgment hall. And if the heart is heavier than the feather, then the person's considered wanting and their heart is actually devoured. And this is symbolic of our integrity, right? The state of our heart is based on, you know, our deeds, our actions. So if our heart feels heavy, usually when we do something that we know is out of integrity, that's not honest, right? When we're not in that truth, when we're not being authentic and sincere, we feel that in our hearts. And that's ultimately what it symbolizes. But it's also a broader judgment, because we saw Judgment Day as every day. At the end, when your day is complete, you can pass a judgment on that day because it has completed itself. So this theme is really big during this cycle. I think it's really important to recognize where our judgments are, because when we're pointing at someone and we're seeing things, it's important to remember that we're seeing actually what's in us. So our judgments usually boomerang back to us. And that's usually a difficult stage of spiritual developing and maturing that everyone has to go through, is really recognize the weight of your judgment. You know, even if it's just in your mind and you never express it, it is a reflection of yourself. And then you are going to, that judgment's going to be cast back onto you, right? So moving into the next level, which is the air element, like I said, the mind, and how our mind is being influenced based on the energy that's behind us, that's moving in and moving us forward into this other energy here. So first, we're going to start with the second card here, which is again in the house of Pet. Like I said, this influence of the heavens, of the stars, is very present. But this card here is 5, and 5 represents change. 5 is also the aspect of power and strength, because through the challenge that 5 represents, through the change, is where we are strengthened and create our power. So we did just move through a very challenging cycle, and this cycle is going to continue itself. So the lessons that we've learned from the past emotions that have been coming up, the things that have been getting triggered so that we can outgrow them, all of that is necessary during this cycle. And it's represented here by Septet, which is actually the energy of Sirius, which represents Ast or Isis, right? The divine feminine principle. And this is not a deity, this is a force of nature, right? This is a force of nature. I'm laughing at Rashawn, who said, no, please don't continue. Yeah, I know. Sorry. We're all growing pains. Trust me, I'm with you. I know, I'm over it. However, it is here. We have to be present with it. We have to trust it. And we're learning a lot. So take your time to journal and really be clear and tap into what you know is going on in you, what is being written in you, how you're transforming, so that you can be conscious of directing your energy forward. And that takes responsibility. A lot of people don't want to go through that. That's why, like, our community is not a broad community. It's people who are here for this transformation and who are healers, who are energy workers, who are leaders. You have to pave the way. So there is an aspect of difficulty that's kind of inherent on the path. So just embrace it. I think that's what we've all been learning to do, is to embrace it. And that's what Septet also shows us, because this is the portal of the feminine. And there's a lot of revelation that's been coming through this healing process that we've been going through. And even though you might not directly associate that with the stars or with Sirius, it is because it's the influence of Sirius in the sky or on our planet that is emphasizing the energy that we're moving through and that we're experiencing. So this is just bringing consciousness to it, because know that this is one of the most potent cycles for us to be in. We're approaching the Lion's Gate or Sekhmet's portal at its peak on August 8th, if you're here in real time. So all the revelations that have been coming up in this like penetration into these like hidden realms that are revealing themselves, these subconscious or unconscious things that are surfacing up to be faced and dealt with, all of that is important for us to carry forward into this next cycle, because we're really being birthed through this canal, right? And it's also the occult knowledge that's revealing itself. And I know that in essence, this information, this knowledge, this spiritual science is what would be considered occult, but not in the sense that I think some people get kind of confused because of maybe the religious take on what is occult or what is pagan, because it's not Christian. And recognizing that the origins of Christianity are in the mythologies and the celestial like mythology of trying to explain these broad universal occurrences in a way that we can relate to and connect with, so that we could see how it affects us, which is the original Trinity. Ast and her husband Asar give birth to Heru through an immaculate conception, right? After he is killed and then is resurrected. So all of that symbolism is still, right? It's interesting that that would be considered pagan, considering that is literally the root of the essence of Christianity, which is the emergence of the Christ, right? But in our sacred science, it's important to just know that these are not deities or things to worship. These are forces of nature, forces of creation that are indwelling within us and that are being expressed throughout our lives and throughout the universe, right? Or the multiverse. So the energy that it's moving us forward into is Kemet, which is interesting. It's the number 1, which is the initiation of a cycle. But this card, remember to pause it and take note of whatever comes up for you intuitively here. It's very interesting because this is the card of chaos. This is also speaking to confusion. There can be mental chaos and confusion because this represents the dissolution or the deconstruction process that's happening mentally. And that has to happen in order for things to be replaced. Like our thoughts are being overridden, and in order for there to be space for us to create something new, then the other thoughts have to be deconstructed. And that's what this card represents. When you see the toad or the frog there, right? And this is the essence of like primordial energy, right? The the energy that came out of that primordial water when we first had like land taking form, the energies that are amphibians that can, take form in the water and then also exist on land. Think about what that symbolizes. When the water symbolizes the emotional realm or the ka, the spirit, and the earth represents the physical material space. So again, it comes back to us balancing the opposites of these two aspects of our energy, the physical and the spiritual. And that all is what is unfolding for us. Things have to be burned down to its pure essence. And it's interesting because Kemet is actually, like, when we look at the word Kum in the name of the land Kemet, Kum is the black, right? So it was the black land. And that was symbolized by charcoal. So when you think about it, when you burn something down, you have to add the water in order for it to turn into charcoal, right? Otherwise, it'll just burn down into ash. So that becomes the water, or the emotional element that allows it to become carbon. And carbon is purifying, it absorbs, right? It's absorbent and it's receptive, right? In that form. We know with pressure, carbon can turn into diamond. And diamond is carbon, right? But it's in its reflective aspect after it's gone through a lot of pressure. So I want you to hold that with you as the symbolism to carry you forward during this difficult cycle and the changes. By the time Tehuti or Mercury stations direct at the end of the month, by August 31st, is going to be a very beautiful energy. I'm going to speak more deeply into this in the extended reading that we're doing for the militia. So again, if you are interested in getting a personal reading with me, you can click the link in the description to book a reading. And you can also join the Tehuti Ma'at militia if you're interested. That's our membership program. So as a member, you get access to our monthly report. So you'll get the August report, which will have the extended reading in it. And that will be going out today once it's recorded. And it has all of the other virtual events and gatherings that we have every month. So if you're interested in learning more about that, we have a collaboration with Tehuti Ma'at and the African War College, which is the Amos Wilson Collective. And you get access to our private server, which we call the ARC, the African Rehabilitation Center. So if you're interested in learning more about this ancient African science and how to apply these ancient principles and this ancient wisdom into the modern time that we're in right now, and the expression of healing and revolution and liberation that's expressing itself right now through personal development, leadership development, and through building transformational power, then join the militia. It's a perfect way to connect with different like-minded people. We have our study groups going every other Thursday. We also have our healing ciphers every month, and we have our warrior workout and our community connect at the end of each month as well. So again, if you have if you want more information about that, you can message us on Instagram. That's not what I meant to put on, but we are on Instagram at Tehuti Ma'at. And you can just give us a call, or I'll say text us at 646-883-Ma'at. You can send a text with your questions. You can also email us at grow@tehutimaat.org. So I appreciate you for being here. Hey there, can I ask a question? Tanya, go ahead and ask your question quickly so that way I can answer it before getting off. And I should schedule these so people know they're live, because maybe other people who are watching the videos may want to catch it live and be able to ask questions. Rashawn, I'm glad that that resonates with you and it feels accurate. And then Sky High, will you do any videos on 8/8? I will. I did do a video last year on 8/8. for the Lionsgate. I might have done it before, and it's called the Lionsgate Sekhmet's Portal. And it was the video I recorded last year. So if you go through the live streams on our channel, you can find it. It was relevant specifically to that Lionsgate, but there is some information specifically on there that's not so specific, excuse me, that's in general about the helical rising of Sirius in the sky and what it represents, and the Dogon interpretation of that, and how that's continued from the ancient Kemetic worldview. And yeah, there's information on there, but I will do an updated video for sure. Okay, so I would like to ask, I contacted my person V tonight. After 1 month of no contact, he responded, but isn't doing now. Can you please check what he is thinking about contacting? About me contacting? Okay, so Tanya, you're asking for a reading? Okay, if you want a reading, I want you to send an email or a message, or you need to book the reading on coinsandcaris.com. But what I want to say to you, I need to do a video about readings in general. I think, while I trust that your curiosity is coming from a genuine and beautiful place, I want you to conserve your energy, because sometimes we're tapping into readings with a different intent, because there's a lot of readers online. I do readings, but I don't consider myself a reading. I am a wisdom keeper, and I take this spiritual practice very seriously. And I find that a lot of people online are using it in a way that I don't think is responsible. And I think it's creating like an addictive habit for people online. And I really want to speak on this. And I'm going to have to do a video on this, but I'm only expressing that, beloved, because you're seeking something from someone else's field that is not relevant to what you need to navigate and to direct your energy. So I want to encourage you to seek within yourself, okay? Seek within yourself and trust yourself. I have the responsibility to do that. And the other thing is, people who are doing readings, they can do readings, they can tell you things. But when you tap into eternity, anyone who truly has the gift recognizes that they can only pick up on something that's in a particular moment. And literally a second later, you can be in a different state, or that person can be in a different state, and it could be a completely different interpretation. So you don't want to hold on to things that are so mutable. And this cycle is going to show us that. So in closing, I want to say that this cycle is all about surrendering control, because there's a lot of change underway. There's going to be a lot of surprises. It might be difficult for a lot of people, depending on your disposition. If you do book a reading with me, I always pull up your natal chart, because I want you to understand specifically how things affect you when we're moving through certain energies. Because if you have a lot of mutable energy, it might not be as difficult for you, but if you have a lot of fixed energy, it may be difficult for you to navigate this. So the readings, I intend my readings on guiding you into yourself. I don't do that type of reading where it's just like reading into what's going to happen in the future, because that is futile. It's not true. And the essence of Tehuti Ma'at is about expressing truth and embodying truth and synchronizing the mind and the heart and empowering us to embody these cosmic principles within ourselves and empowering ourselves, right? So that you're not depending on me. I'm just guiding you into yourself, right? So I even have limits on my readings. I only do a reading for a person once a season. So I just wanted to say that. So just, I hope that is healing for you and supportive. Sky High, so true. Online readings have been a point of conflict for me recently. Yes, it is something that can become addictive. So I do want you to be careful with that. And you really have to have a lot of discernment, because you're welcoming people into your energy and they're influencing your psyche. That's very dangerous, especially during this cycle where I express that the mental energy is one of chaos. So you want to find stability within yourself in the ways that you can. So I highly recommend journaling and meditation. And those are great ways. Any creative expression as well, breath work or breath play, as I like to say. So, yeah. All right. If anything, please join the militia, where you'll get access to our community and our community gatherings, which are virtual, as well as our physical gatherings at Tehuti Community Garden in Brooklyn. And if you enjoyed our reading today, please subscribe if you're not subscribed to the channel. And make sure if you subscribe that you hit the notification bell, because it will let you know when I am on live, because sometimes these can be spontaneous. I am working with this West African Wi-Fi, and doing live streams is best than recording pre-recorded videos. So that's just the nature of how things work. I may not be able to schedule things, and I don't anchor myself so much in time. So that's one thing. I have to be very fluid, which is why I birthed Navigating Eternity, which is our holistic energy management medicine. It's a time management, accountability, and planning system. So if you want more information about that, you can also check out, I don't know if I have the link in the description, but that is the link on Teachable. So you could pause the screen and go onto that if you want to see more about Navigating Eternity. I will open enrollment back up for our online course. But again, thank you for being here. I appreciate y'all and your energy and your trust. And I will see you next time. And for members of the militia, I'll see you in the extended reading. All right, power.